take that phone. Yeah, the one that's in your hand. And go to easily start calling on the second line. And if it makes you feel better and all that, you can tell everyone just to visit. Visit easily.com and use promo code 2lines for quick promotions off.
So that was fantastic. I love having a mirror on my phone. So I just have my secret storage back. Put another one on the backpack. And also, I noticed that the credit card history on mine is way more hidden. I don't even show anyone to use that secrets. And I think that's weird. But I have to admit it. So no credit card storage.
Don't worry about it, but making sure your child is in the right seat is technology starts 99% of the time. Find the right seat for your loved ones in 10 seconds. Have zero dollars to buy your seat, making sure that your child is in the right seat. Technology starts 99% of the time. Provide privacy information for your loved ones. 30 days absolutely risk-free. Plus, call in the next 6 minutes and we'll also include free shipping. You owe it to yourself to try Vital for 30 days. It's absolutely risk-free.
Vital is a true scientific breakthrough, 20 years in the making.
Get the facts at mycerovital.com. Supplies are limited. Call 1-800-691-4202 or go to mycerovital.com for your risk-free trial today.
Hi, I'm Dana Lash from The Dana Show. If you could be more heart healthy just by drinking a glass of frozen vegetable juice daily, would you do it? Probably not. But what if this performance-enhancing veggie was transformed into a great-tasting circulation superfood drink? It's called Super Beets, and I can help you try it risk-free. See, Super Beets helps boost your body's nitric oxide levels, and that helps increase your energy and stamina. It supports healthy blood pressure too. I drink Super Beets in the morning for energy, at the gym for extra long workouts, in the afternoon as a pick-me-up without jittery side effects. Get a bonus 30-day supply free with your first order. Plus, get the book Beat the Odds, free and free shipping too. It's guaranteed, or you're going to get your money back. You'll love it.
I immediately felt like I was 10 years younger.
Within, 30 minutes of taking it, I felt different.
Call 1-800-235-9108 or go to getsuperbeats.com.
Congress says no to President Obama over the 9/11 bill, handing him the first veto override of his presidency. This is Special Report. Good evening, welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. Congress is emphatic tonight. Members of both parties in both chambers have overwhelmingly rejected the president's veto of a bill allowing 9/11 victims' families to sue Saudi Arabia over its alleged involvement supporting the terrorist attacks. It's the first time since the president took office that Congress has overridden his veto, and tonight, President Obama is reacting. Correspondent Doug McKelway is on Capitol Hill tonight with details. Good evening, Doug.
Good evening, Brent. In a Congress which is paralyzed so often, this 97-1 tally on the Senate side and a nearly similar vote on the House side was a sign of near unanimity and a stinging rebuke of the president's opposition to the 9/11 bill. It was also the first override of a presidential veto in the history of the Obama administration, but it comes with some severe potential repercussions.
When weighed against the moral imperative, we have to do right by the families of the 9/11 victims. The choice is clear. I urge my colleagues to override.
It was the rarest of circumstances. Liberal New York Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer imploring his colleagues to override President Obama's veto of JASTA. The bill gives the families of 9/11 victims the right to sue foreign governments if a court finds the government to be complicit in a terrorist attack in the U.S. Despite the one-sided vote tally, some senators were torn between empathy for 9/11 families and how JASTA could damage a cornerstone of diplomacy, sovereign immunity.
I'm going to support passage of this legislation today, but I do so understanding that there could be, in fact, unintended consequences that work against our national interest.
The White House had unleashed its heavy hitters to warn about JASTA. Defense Chief Ash Carter wrote it could lead to, quote, an intrusive discovery process, which might threaten military secrets. CIA Director John Brennan spoke moments before the House voted on the override.
Piercing the concept of sovereign immunity, which has really undergirded international relations for centuries, I think is a very, very dangerous, slippery slope.
His warning didn't work.
All of the president's objections, I believe, were addressed. Changes were made, and this bill is not going to put American soldiers at risk. It's not going to put American diplomats at risk.
Late this afternoon, a stunned President Obama reacted to the override.
It's a dangerous precedent, and it's an example of
the dangerous precedent. What?
Sometimes you have to do what's hard. And frankly, I wish Congress here had done what's hard.
So far silent is Saudi Arabia, the country most likely to be singled out for lawsuits by 9/11 families. 15 of the 19 9/11 hijackers were Saudis. And formerly unreleased pages from the 9/11 Commission report suggest to some that a Saudi connection to 9/11 should be further probed in a court of law.
Publicly, the Saudis have kept a very low profile in all this, saying this as a U.S. domestic issue with which they should not interfere. But privately, Brett, they've got to be seething. They see themselves as a loyal ally in the war on terror, which has shared intelligence with the U.S. that has helped to disrupt the terrorism plots. Brett?
Doug, another development. It looks like the prospect of a government shutdown has been averted. Congress will likely reach, we understand, an agreement tonight on a continuing resolution to fund the government through December 9th. So what changed so quickly? I mean, it was just 24 hours ago. The specter of this shutdown was looming large.
That's right, and that happened because House Democrats suddenly wanted to include $170 million in funding for the Flint, Michigan water crisis in the continuing resolution. The trouble was that the Senate had already passed a separate bill, a water resources bill, which included that money, and that the House water resources bill did not include that money. Well, late today, the House leadership assured House Democrats that they will include that $170 million in the water resources bill. The debate will happen late tonight, 10, 11 o'clock p.m. The details will be worked out in Conference Committee in the lame duck session. That money will be provided by the end of this year. Everybody's happy. Everybody gets to get out here late tonight and go home to campaign for the November 8th elections.
Right until the next fiscal clip. Doug,
true.
Live on Capitol Hill. Doug, thank you.
Yeah.
3 months of Republican frustration with the FBI director's refusal to seek criminal charges against Hillary Clinton and her aides spilled out into the open today on Capitol Hill. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Harris was asked a tense 3-hour hearing. Good evening, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Brett. The more FBI Director Comey talks about the integrity of the email investigation, the less Republicans and critics seem convinced.
I don't think your answers are satisfactory at all, Mr. Comey. I do have a great deal of respect for you, but I think that there's a heavy hand coming from someplace else.
When you have 5 immunity agreements and no prosecution, when you are allowing witnesses who happen to be lawyers, who happen to be targets, to sit in on an interview, that is not the FBI that I used to work with.
I hope someday when the political craze is over, you will look back again on this, because this is the FBI you know and love.
Focus on 5 Clinton aides and support staff who got immunity deals from the Justice Department is all about politics because the FBI agents acted independently.
You take issue with whether or not they were compromised or they were adhering to somebody else's message. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. You can call us wrong, but don't call us weasels. We are not weasels. We are honest people.
And at least 2 people who got deals were accused today of lying to the FBI, Brett.
Kevin, so how does that work? How do you keep your deal if you lie to the federal investigator?
Well, the FBI director struggled with that question. Republican lawmakers accused Colorado IT specialist Paul Combetta of lying to the FBI and pressed Comey why he was allowed to keep his deal. He recently took the fifth on the Hill after he destroyed the Clinton email archive and recently tried to destroy his online request for help wiping Clinton's email address from the records.
The clincher. Just last week, he's going online and trying to delete these Reddit posts. He's trying to cover up his tracks. He's trying to cover up the cover-up.
He lied to an FBI agent. You don't think that's important?
And this point was also emphasized by another senior Republican.
And so when he got immunity, what did you learn? We learned that no one had directed him to do that he had done it.
You really think that he just did this by himself?
I think his account, again, I never affirmatively believe anybody except my wife.
And Comey confirmed today there was no consultation with Congress about these immunity deals, which could derail the ongoing investigations.
You were handing out like candy, according to some, immunity. Did you, or to your knowledge, Department of Justice, confer with Chairman Goodlatte, Chairman Chaffetz, Chairman Smith, or any of the other chairmen who had ongoing subpoenas and investigations?
Not to my knowledge.
And Clinton's personal attorney, Cheryl Mills, got a deal that was much broader than previously reported. It shielded her from prosecution for obstruction of justice and destruction of government records, and there was no consequence when classified information was found on her laptop, Brett.
Captain, thank you. More on this with the panel. President Obama is sending more American troops to Iraq ahead of a major offensive to recapture a key city from ISIS terrorists. Quite the evolution for a president and an administration that touted the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq as a major success. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen reports tonight from the White House.
As the Pentagon announced the deployment of another 615 troops to Iraq, President Obama visited the rank and file at Fort Lee in central Virginia.
You're helping us to destroy ISIL, and we will destroy them. You're keeping us safe.
The low-key announcement of additional troop deployments marked the 11th by the Obama administration in the last 27 months, each time ranging from 200 to 1,500, such that the total number of U.S. troops and advisors in Iraq will exceed 5,000 by the time the president leaves office. While some Americans have embedded with Iraqi security forces at brigade and battalion levels, the administration has maintained that no U.S. forces are participating in combat operations, only advising and assisting the Iraqis as they reclaim territory held by ISIS and brace for the coming battle for Mosul, Iraq's second largest city and the last urban stronghold there controlled by the terrorist group.
But I need to make clear once again, American forces combating ISIL in Iraq are in harm's way.
In an interview with the Fox News documentary unit, retired General David Petraeus, an architect of the troop surge that stabilized Iraq in the final years of the Bush-Cheney era, faulted President Obama for withdrawing the majority of U.S. troops from Iraq and thereby allowing ISIS to gather strength and declare a caliphate.
There was an opportunity, I do think, if we pursued it aggressively, to keep forces there, perhaps to do it without a status force agreement. The irony is that we have what is now approaching 6,000 troops in Iraq on the ground without a status of forces agreement. So perhaps we could have taken that risk and done that.
The incrementalism of the current approach in Iraq carries echoes of the 1960s, when President Lyndon B. Johnson conducted the protracted war in Vietnam, gradually increasing U.S. troop deployments to advise and assist an indigenous allied force of questionable effectiveness. The policy of escalation ended in anguish for LBJ, as Brian Vandermark, a professor at the U.S. Naval Academy, recounted in Into the Quagmire, Lyndon Johnson and the escalation of the Vietnam War. His views are his own and not those of the Navy.
The momentum of events and the pressure circumstances can oftentimes carry decision makers and even those in the field beyond the point where they intend to go. And I suspect that Obama and his advisors are just as susceptible to that dynamic and those pressures as Johnson was half a century ago.
White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest noted to reporters that there were 144,000 U.S. troops in Iraq when President Obama took office. He said the mission for the 5,000 remaining there now is also markedly different, even though Earnest acknowledged that some special forces will carry out, quote, discrete missions in which they, quote, engage the enemy directly.
James Rosen, live on the North Lawn. James, thank you. More on this panel as well. President Obama is expected to extend the bombing campaign against ISIS in Libya for another month. That's according to 3 U.S. military officials with knowledge of the request. They tell Fox News the order would mark the second 30-day extension of U.S. military airstrikes against ISIS since they began August 1st. At the time, the Pentagon said the mission would likely last weeks, not months. The U.S. military's Africa Command says as of Monday, Marine Corps Harrier jets and attack helicopters from the Navy amphibious assault ship USS Wasp have conducted 175 airstrikes against ISIS in Libya. Secretary of State John Kerry is threatening to cut off all discussions about Syria with the Russians unless they stop attacks on civilians in Aleppo. Kerry issued the ultimatum today in a phone call with his Russian counterpart. A spokesman says Kerry told Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov the U.S. holds Russia responsible for the use of incendiary and bunker buster bombs in the urban area. Russia has no weapons to Kerry's threat in its state. In politics tonight, Donald Trump is storming through the Midwest in his latest campaign push. Trump was in Illinois and Iowa earlier today, and he is set to speak at a rally in Wisconsin and Minnesota. If you have a 4-5 backgrounds and want to senator's presidential bid. Fox News correspondent Jennifer Griffin is with the Clinton campaign tonight in Durham, North Carolina. Hi, Jennifer.
Good evening, Brett. We're in New Hampshire this evening, and we just saw Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders on stage together. Her lead among millennials has nearly evaporated since last month when she was 24 points ahead. Now she is down to 5 points according to the latest Quinnipiac poll. In a push to mobilize millennials, Hillary Clinton took to the stage with a 70-year-old senator who has become an icon on college campuses across the country, adopting one of his campaign promises.
We should, and we will, make public colleges tuition-free for families earning less than $125,000 a year.
This is a revolutionary proposal for the future of our country with wide-reaching implications. The next president of the United States, Hillary Clinton.
President Obama called into the Steve Harvey radio show and expressed frustration that Clinton is not getting the support he says she deserves.
People just do not give her credit. And part of it maybe is because she's a woman. And, we have not elected a woman president before.
As media reports surface that Clinton campaign officials are concerned about black voter turnout in Florida, they are also worried about an enthusiasm gap with millennials.
If you don't vote, that's a vote for Trump. We need Hillary Clinton to win.
His wife acknowledged the same.
It's not about voting for the perfect candidate. There is no such person.
Michelle Obama hit the campaign trail for Clinton in Philadelphia, reminding students how
feel bumpy because she doesn't think what happened is over. You can't change it. We're going to start this out in a minute. The main concern
At the end, active politics goes from his campaign in June all the way to present. And the neighbors know their share of violent history, not from the way he was together.
give you a very special case. Because the same time, and this is old, and this is true. That will repeat. So the same case can provide us the truth and truth. Also, but first of all, it's a statement about what you can do with something. Not that it's another person. The same thing.
entire administration, whether Obama was complicit and knew too much, and whether or not they intended for this investigation to go south from the start. And it really is going to be a bigger burden on the shoulders of Hillary Clinton, even if she wins and all these staffers get to go in and join her at the White House. It's why people don't trust the government.
Donald Trump at the debate tapped into this one time.
That was more than a mistake. That was done purposely. Okay, that was not a mistake. That was done purposely. When you have your staff taking the Fifth Amendment, taking the Fifth, so they're not prosecuted. When you have the man that set up the illegal server taking the Fifth,